Hello friends, I hope you are doing well wherever you are. Today, I want to discuss with you a very specific topic on immigration, the extraterritorial asylum process. Have you heard about it? It's a topic of interest today, and I do oppose it. Because with many years, including years of working as a humanitarian, in the humanitarian sector, supporting people affected by hostile immigration policies, and myself having lived in many countries and worked in many countries, I find no single reason that is ethically sounding for countries to process this extraterritorial asylum. Countries should be responsible and receive people come to their territory. Extraterritorial processing of asylum cases refer to practice where countries manage and process asylum claim outside their own borders, often in third countries or offshore locations. Rather than allowing asylum seekers to enter destination countries to claim asylum, this process intercept and relocate them, sometimes to remote islands or third nation for claim processing. The goal here is to limit the number of individuals physically arriving to request asylum on country's territory. There are notable examples of these processes. One that many know is the Australians Offshore Processing Center in Nauru and Manus Island. The United States remain in Mexico policy, and the UK's controversial proposal by the Conservative government to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Denmark and Norway have also considered similar measures. While these policies are often framed as necessary for migration control, they raise serious ethical and legal concerns. Today, I'm discussing with you why I oppose the extraterritorial asylum process. I argue that it undermines human rights, it violates international law, and reflects a troubling amnesia regarding the West's own history of asylum seeking. So follow me. Now, claiming asylum is a right protected by the international law. As you know, the right to seek asylum is enshrined in international law, particularly in the 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol, to which most countries in the world are signatories. These treaties affirm that anyone fleeing persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership of a particular social group has the right to seek asylum. Crucially, the Convention prohibits refoulement, meaning refugees cannot be returned to a country where they face serious threats to their life or freedom. So, people seek asylum for many reasons. This could be war, oppressive regimes, persecution, violence, and natural disasters. Those are common factors that force individuals to flee their homeland. Historically, asylum seekers have come from countries and zones like Syria, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Venezuela, seeking safety in other countries. What is often forgotten is that Europe and the Western world once experienced mass displacement themselves. And even now as we speak, they are. During the two World Wars, millions of Europeans fled their homes seeking refuge in other parts of the world, including in global south. Countries like Tanzania and Egypt hosted European refugees. Egypt, for instance, provided shelter to thousands of Poles fleeing Nazi persecution during World War II. Tanzania, they also offered refuge to Europeans during this era. The Western power of the time, recognizing the devastation of war and persecution, were staunch advocates of asylum laws. But the West has not only been a recipient of refugees, it has also benefited tremendously from them. If you look at people like Albert Einstein, a Jewish refugee from Nazi Germany, who made a revolution in physics, Henry Kissinger, a refugee from Nazi persecution, became a key architect of US foreign policy. The United States and Europe are home to many immigrants and refugees who have significantly contributed to their economic, cultural, and intellectual landscape. From Madeleine Albright, that many know and remember, the first female US Secretary of State and a refugee from Czechoslovakia, to Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, a refugee from Soviet Union. The fundamental issue with offshore processing is wider than that. While countries have the right to control their borders, they are fundamental problem with processing asylum seekers' cases offshore. It violates international law. Yes. First and foremost, offshore asylum processing violates international law. The 1951 Refugee Convention guarantees that individuals have the right to seek asylum and have their claim heard in the country where they seek protection. So, in other words, forcing people out of country they intend to seek asylum in without hearing their claim breaches this right. Asylum seekers often have personal or familial ties with the country where they wish to seek refuge, and deporting them to a third country denies them a fair hearing and the opportunity to seek asylum where they feel safest. Second, I find it to be an issue with history that is forgotten. Remember, the West's embrace of offshore asylum processing reveals an alarming forgetfulness of its own history. The same countries that once championed asylum protections in the wake of World War I and World War II now are saying, well, these people should be returned back. And then Europe is turning back to its own principle. At the time when Europe was in chaos, asylum protection were essential to safeguard the innocent. Today, these protections are being eroded, and the victims are once again innocent human beings. The West seems to have forgotten that, just as it once needed these protections, the world still does. It is the responsibility of all governments to offer a fair hearing to asylum seekers and to protect those deserving of asylum. The West's responsibility to share the burden is sometimes ignored, but they should share the burden. Many proponents of offshore asylum processing argue that the Western countries cannot bear the burden of accepting large numbers of refugees. However, the majority of the world's refugees are already hosted by countries in the global South. Nations with far fewer resources than Europe or North America. Countries like Turkey, Pakistan, and Uganda host millions of refugees. It is both unjust and irresponsible for wealthy nations to refuse to share the burden carried by humanity due to global conflict or natural disasters, many of which this West has contributed to through historical colonialism, resource extraction, or military intervention. Asylum as a political campaign tool is growing in Western world. This is another troubling aspect of this trend to make this issue political. Use asylum as a political issue instead of addressing the root cause of displacement such as war, persecution, or climate change. Western politicians now frequently use asylum seekers as scapegoats in election campaign. This demonization and xenophobia kind of political element is very bad. The Ukraine-Russia war is a tragic reminder that no part of this world is immune to war displacement. Europe itself became the site of massive refugee crisis as millions of Ukrainians, prompting Europe to quickly open its doors. Yet, this contrast highlights how different asylum seekers from non-European countries are treated, exposing the inherent double standard in asylum policies. People should stop using asylum as a political weapon. So, my friends, this extraterritorial asylum process represents a betrayal of the core values that the West once fought for. By exporting asylum seekers to third countries and offshore facilities, Western nations are not only undermining international law, but they are also perpetuating a system that dehumanizes and abandons some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. I really call upon you all and upon the European and Northern American leaders to stop using asylum seekers as political pawns. Asylum is not a political issue. It is a human rights issue. Instead of treating asylum seekers as threats, let us remember that they are victims of forces beyond their control. It is time for the West to honor its legal and moral obligations and stop using asylum seeking as political weapon at the expense of innocent human beings who have already suffered enough. If you like this, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.